The residents of an upscale complex decided that a black man named Jerome Blake and his family didn't fit into their surroundings. They barred them from the pool and stripped them of simple joys in life. Every day, Jerome's children saw their family subjected to disdain simply because of their skin color, and his heart was torn by a helpless rage. But when he returned to the complex as the new manager, even those who had seen a lot were stunned by his first decision. The events that followed would shock even the most seasoned individuals. But let's go back to the beginning. The Blake family, Jerome, his wife Laura, and their two small children, move enthusiastically into a new, prestigious residential complex. At first glance, everything seems perfect. Beautiful lawns, well-kept paths, equipped playgrounds, and a spacious communal pool that promises to become a favorite spot for the whole family. But as soon as they start settling in, they begin to notice wary glances from some of the neighbors who, upon spotting them, start whispering or pursing their lips. A few days later, Jerome decides to spend a day off with his kids at the pool. He brings towels, inflatable toys, and snacks, hoping for a fun day with his family. However, as soon as they approach the water, a neighbor named Bill walks up to them, looking them up and down with distaste. Bill announces that the pool is for regular residents only, and that some families shouldn't be here. At first, Jerome tries to avoid conflict, explaining that they're residents too and have every right to use the recreational area. But Bill doesn't back down and raises his voice, drawing the attention of other neighbors. A small crowd gathers around. Some people silently nod in agreement with Bill. Others watch with curiosity. But no one steps forward to defend the Blake family. The situation quickly escalates, and two more neighbors join in, asserting that the complex must maintain a certain standard. They make subtle hints that Jerome and his family don't fit in with the community, clearly implying that they're referring to his race. Jerome's son, noticing the tension, grabs his father's hand and anxiously asks what's going on. Laura, watching the scene unfold, steps in and sharply reminds the neighbors that her family paid as much to live in the complex as anyone else. In response, they receive openly hostile looks and cold remarks about community rules. Feeling humiliated and angry, Jerome calmly but firmly states that they're not leaving and that, according to their contract, they have the right to use all the complex's amenities. He tries to end the conversation, leading his children to the lounge chairs, but Bill approaches him again and says directly that families like yours should look for a place in other neighborhoods. These words deeply wound Jerome, but he decides not to show his emotions in front of his children and only returns Bill's gaze with a cold stare. The family stays at the pool, but the entire day passes under the weight of sidelong glances and open disregard from the neighbors. Jerome decides that they will have to stand up for their rights so that his children know that no prejudice can strip them of their dignity. A few days after the incident at the pool, Jerome decides to show the neighbors that his family isn't backing down. He gathers the kids, picks up their swim gear, and heads back to the pool. This time, Laura stays home but warns her husband. If anything happens, she'll be there right away. No sooner do the Blake family settle by the pool than a neighbor, Mr. Henderson, notices them and almost immediately approaches the complex's security guard, gesturing angrily in Jerome's direction. A few minutes later, the guard comes over to Jerome with a stony expression and, not wanting to argue, calmly asks him to leave the pool area, citing some rule violations. Jerome, already expecting this turn of events, demands an explanation for why his family is being asked to leave. The guard, hesitating slightly, starts to awkwardly explain that complaints had been filed by neighbors who feel that the Blake family disrupts the atmosphere of the complex. The conversation draws the attention of other residents, and Bill approaches Jerome again, clearly pleased with how things are unfolding. He sarcastically remarks that people with their background should respect the established rules. Jerome feels anger rising inside him, but instead of responding to the insult, he pulls out his phone and starts recording the scene. Bill angrily demands that he stop filming, but Jerome firmly states that he's recording the incident to protect his rights. Meanwhile, Laura arrives at the pool, having seen the confrontation from the window. She takes out her phone and starts recording from the other side, loudly commenting on what's happening, explaining how their family is being denied the right to use communal property despite being legitimate residents. Other residents, hearing her words, start glancing at each other, but most remain silent, not intervening. Frustrated, Bill tries to grab Laura's phone, but she immediately pulls back, threatening to call the police for attempted physical interference. This statement attracts even more attention, and this time, some of the previously silent neighbors start expressing discontent with the situation. One of them, a young man named Michael, is the first to openly stand with the Blake family, noting that such treatment of neighbors is simply unacceptable. Soon, a video of the incident appears on social media. Laura adds a post describing the situation in detail, explaining their fight for the right to use the complex's shared facilities. The post sparks a lively discussion and gains hundreds of comments supporting the Blakes and condemning the discriminatory behavior of their neighbors. Despite the support online, the atmosphere within the complex remains unchanged. The Blake family continues to feel hostility from most residents, though a few, like Michael, now greet them warmly when they cross paths. Even so, Jerome and Laura decide they won't back down. The video footage taken by Jerome and Laura unexpectedly gains significant popularity on social media. News of the discrimination occurring in the upscale residential complex catches the attention of local media. A journalist from a local news channel interviews Jerome, where he speaks about the difficulties they've faced. This story sparks widespread public discussion, raising important questions about tenants' rights and racial discrimination. Many comments come in from people expressing support for the Blake family and sharing their own similar experiences. As online attention to the incident grows, the management company overseeing the complex begins to feel pressure and concern over its deteriorating reputation. The company finds itself at the center of criticism, drawing interest from local activists. To address the situation, one of the directors decides to conduct an internal investigation and issue a public statement condemning discrimination. The company also resolves to revise its management policies to make them more transparent and inclusive. Soon after, a company representative contacts Jerome, inviting him to meet to discuss their situation. Prepared for a difficult conversation, Jerome attends the meeting with Laura, only to be met with a surprising offer. The management offers him the position of complex manager. This decision is driven not only by his professional qualifications, but also by the fact that Jerome has now become well known due to the incident, and the company sees an opportunity to restore public trust and demonstrate a commitment to equality and fairness. Jerome is taken aback and immediately recognizes the company's underlying motivation. The offer is likely intended to serve the company's own interests and improve its image. He asks a direct question about their reasons, hinting at the public pressure. But the company representative explains that they genuinely consider him a qualified candidate and are offering him full control over managing the complex, including ensuring equal access to communal spaces. Laura encourages Jerome, emphasizing that this role would give them the opportunity to bring about real change and protect the rights of all residents, not just their own family. Despite his reservations, Jerome agrees. He is officially appointed as manager, and over the next few weeks, he begins to prepare for his new role. A few weeks after Jerome's appointment as manager, significant changes take place in the complex. He begins by openly discussing with the residents the importance of inclusivity and equality, hosting a meeting in the community hall. Nearly all residents attend the gathering, including Bill and other neighbors who had previously opposed his family. Jerome calmly but firmly states that from now on, every resident will have equal access to all communal areas in the complex, including the pool. He emphasizes that the new policy will not tolerate even the slightest hint of discrimination. As Jerome speaks, some attendees look down uncomfortably. Bill tries to object, claiming that the community's traditions should be respected. But Jerome calmly interrupts him, reminding him that traditions based on exclusion and bias cannot be justified. This statement creates some tension in the room, but many residents support Jerome, with some even starting to applaud. Laura, watching the meeting, feels proud of her husband. After the meeting, Jerome takes practical steps to ensure a comfortable living environment for all residents. He arranges for surveillance cameras to be installed in communal areas to prevent incidents of discrimination and establishes regular resident meetings to discuss ongoing issues. Meanwhile, Jerome works closely with the company's legal team to update the complex's policies, ensuring legal protection for all residents. Neighbors who had previously been hostile toward the Blake family begin to change their behavior. No one dares to show any disdain toward Jerome directly. On the contrary, many make an effort to establish a friendly rapport with him. Even Bill now prefers to avoid Jerome in any public confrontations. Some residents even approach him personally, apologizing for their actions and admitting that they had previously been influenced by prejudiced stereotypes. Several months later, the complex is transformed. Jerome's children play freely in the courtyard, interacting with other kids, and the Blake family feels like a true part of the community. Their story, which became a symbol of resilience and strength, serves as a reminder to many of the importance of equality and justice. Now, with a new atmosphere of respect in the complex, Jerome feels a deep sense of satisfaction. He has not only defended his family, but also changed how the community views issues of discrimination.